Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast. And thank you guys all for tuning in. I am so excited that I get the opportunity each and every week to introduce some guests that will bring some motivation, inspiration, and education all in one show. So here they are. This is Tina and Jeff Newberry. Tina Newberry is the founder of Leaders for Life Martial Arts, Leaders for Life Enterprise, and Leadership Curriculum Developer. She is the author of Raising Leaders for Life. Tina is an 8th degree black belt, mother of 3, and grandmother to 5. Jeff Newberry is a retired police officer, defensive tactics instructor, and 8th degree black belt. He is the Leaders for Life training coordinator. Jeff is also a court-appointed self-defense expert. They have been married and have been in business together for over 35 years. Their children are also very successful school owners. And I'm excited to have you guys here on the show today. Welcome to the Master Motivation Podcast.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
You know, I'm always kind of joking that, especially as we get a little later in the year, that I probably booked you guys on the show about a year ago. And believe it or not, this month is when I'll be booking out all of my 2024 calendar. And I just kind of get excited as I see the weeks go by and all the new guests that are coming on and looking ahead to who is coming up. And, you know, we met through the Martial Arts Industry Association, right? Through the Maya Elite training program with Mike Metzger and Frank Silverman and all the crew over there. And so I'm excited to share your story because we've got a lot going on now and a lot of history to talk about. So let me just start it off by asking you guys, what is your motivation behind the Leaders for Life?
Well, I think that we both grew up in martial arts. I started when I was 14 years old, and we, you know, in 3rd grade they diagnosed me with dyslexia, learning disabilities, and I got to have the opportunity to go into those special education classes and integrate in and out of these classrooms that really demotivated me and took a punch to my self-esteem as people would bully me and all of those kinds of things. And so, you know, now to really live our passion out and to be able to take that pain and that passion and inspire instructors, inspire our students with confidence and discipline. I just feel so blessed to be, it's still almost 41 years we've been doing this. And it's probably redundant on Facebook because I'm always like, I just can't believe I get to do this for a living. And I believe that martial arts is the total package for kids and for families. I mean, where else can you relieve stress, get physically fit, learn self-defense, create confidence and self-discipline, all at the same time while you're spending quality family time together. So that's really my motivation, is through that pain, finding pleasure in doing martial arts. And still today, the flame is still burning strong. And so that's my story.
Yeah, I guess my passion, my job has always been to train instructors and train staff development, things like that. And I've been blessed to have so many instructors, especially this one, but because she's my instructor. But her dad was my original Taekwondo instructor. And even before that, some of the other instructors I've had, they took a young, insecure, arrogant, egotistical idiot, and they took a chance on me, and they helped mold me and shape me. And to be quite honest, martial arts, other than my faith, martial arts has revolutionized my life in more ways than anything short of my faith. And so I feel like it's not only a privilege and an honor, but it's an obligation to give that to the next generations. And so that's what keeps me juiced up.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it just so amazing that, we have firsthand seen the benefits of martial arts from what sounds like a young age. And, Jeff, you talk about, your faith and how important that is in your life and how martial arts, comes in as that close second. I mean, really, isn't what we're doing, professing our faith at the same time, right? I mean, if you really think about it, we're talking about, empowering people and believing in people and saving people and helping people. We just happen to be doing it through martial arts, a physical activity. They really do go together. And, listen, I have to say, that I watch both of you on what you post on social media. And I just love that you tie those two together, because I think that it is important. And, let's face it. I mean, especially in a polarized country that we live in now, that can be a very dangerous thing at the same time. Right. But before we dive more into that, Tina, you started it at 14 years old. Jeff, how old were you when you started martial arts?
I was 13.
13. Okay. Mm-hmm. So teenage years, I mean, those are kind of tough years. Now, do you remember, participating in any other sports, any other activities, before martial arts?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., and we go back there, and I love it there. But my parents, there was some political unrest in D.C., and they moved me to Mattoon, Illinois. And so going from a city kid to a country kid was really different. And so I started sports right after they moved me. I had this incredible coach. His name was Mr. Reed, George Reed. And he knew I never, played basketball or anything like that. And so the first sport I started was basketball. And he's like, "You're from DC, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm from DC." And he's like, "You know what stealing is?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's like when somebody takes something." And he's like, "Okay, that's what you got to do. You got to go steal the ball." And he only gave me one thing to really focus on, which was stealing the ball and giving it to our star player. And she would always make the shots, And so he became my coach in track and in basketball and my mentor. And so that was really my first relief, I guess, of not being so concerned about academics and going from a city kid to a country kid was really a culture shock for me. And so sports and activity was just like this breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm. I love that you brought up, you still remember the name of a coach, at that young age, George Reed, who is your coach, right? It's so important that if you're a coach out there, or you're an instructor, or you're a leader in any part of your community, how much you understand the impact you have on the people that you teach, the people that you coach, and the people that you work with. Even just a phrase, a word, a small sense of encouragement literally lasts your entire life. I mean, here you are as an adult, a grandmother and a mother who still remembers a coach from when she was a kid. I just can't, explain how important, I try to really remind our leadership team, our teenagers that are coming up, maybe they're not staff members yet, but they are, leaders in training, and just how much of an impact people will remember for a really long time. The words we say, the way we treat people, the impact lasts forever. So I love the fact when someone brings up a coach from back in the day. But how about you, Jeff? Any sports activities prior to martial arts that made an impact?
Yeah. I grew up, I played baseball, basketball, football, wrestled, ran in track, done martial arts. I was in Boy Scouts. I played every sport there was. But the thing is, martial arts enhanced all those other sports that I played. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but martial arts is the one that I knew I could do for a lifetime. It's not like at 5'3" I was going to make the NBA. You know what I mean? And so, and it wasn't going to be a running back in the NFL. So I knew martial arts was the sport, if you will, that was going to be a lifetime journey for me. And playing all those sports, people ask me all the time, they're like, "You were active in all those sports?" Yeah. Well, why did your mom and dad have you so busy? Well, the truth is because I proved to my mom and dad on more than one occasion that idle time wasn't good for me. And so they kept me busy. And it was through sports. all those other sports. But like I say, it was martial arts that I knew could be a lifetime journey. The others just simply weren't going to be that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, quick shout out. Dana Abbott is watching. Dana, thanks for being here. And he was an awesome guest on the show as well. So guys, if you want to go back to YouTube and check out that show with Dana Abbott, I hope you're doing well, sir. You said something, Jeff, that I think is very important when it comes to martial arts, that people really, truly understand this as well. Is like, my son played baseball, played soccer, played football, wrestled, did all the things. But you said something that I 100% agree with, is that martial arts enhances your performance in other activities, whether it's sports or school, or heck, even our adults in their job and their career. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you mean by that? How does martial arts enhance these other activities?
Mm-hmm. Well, several things, I think. Number one, not only the physical fitness, martial arts is one of those few sports that actually really focus on all the areas of fitness. So that's good. The confidence that comes from martial arts, even take self-defense, for example. There's a lot of physical defensive tactics that people can do, but if they don't have the confidence to do it, it's kind of irrelevant. Like when I was a police officer, I would train our department. And so, we would have those young 21, 22-year-old kids come from the academy. They knew what to do physically. We would go to our first bar fight, and we were dragging them out of the bar with the bad guys because they didn't know they knew what to do. They just didn't have the confidence to do it. So, just take confidence alone. The way the martial arts instills confidence and develops people, that enhances every other aspect of life. All of the life skills that come along with martial arts enhances every area of our life. So that's that. It just there's a lot to learn in those other sports. The teamwork, the camaraderie. I got my teammates back. There's a lot of lessons in all those sports. Statistically, not very many people are going to make it professionally in those sports. So, but martial arts and the benefits of that is just simply a lifetime journey that anybody and everybody can enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it does go the other way, right? That sports can also help enhance martial arts in a certain way, because, I'm sure if you guys have been doing martial arts for a little while, the old school way is a little different than how we teach now. Right. I mean, just a little bit, maybe.
Just a little bit.
But I can tell you, having my son and daughter participate in other sports and other activities. My daughter was a dancer. She also played soccer and softball for a short time, did these other things. And, maybe it was just me because I always wanted to learn and I always wanted to be a better coach, but I would watch the coaches and what they said and how they did things. And I would bring that into the martial arts school. You talk about team atmosphere. I think when I was training in martial arts, it wasn't a team. It was all about me and my own performance, right? But I think now something that I've just brought into our school that I really love is that atmosphere of everybody's got each other's back. Everybody is there supporting each other. Everybody is there rooting each other on. And once that culture shifted, man, I saw some major changes in my school too. So, here I was in business for 10 plus years at that time. And I'm still changing and evolving based on, the experience of my children, So Tina, what do you think? What do you think that martial arts helps enhance other activities as well? Anything to add to what Jeff said?
Well, I think martial arts, we're probably preaching to the choir, but I feel like you get a black belt and then you decide whether you're a true martial artist, if it's a way of life, right? Like martial arts becomes a way of life. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And when you're in your academies, whether you're a student or a coach, instructor, or the owner, it is, well, I hope that, we have gone past the 80s in martial arts, that Cobra Kai kind of dojos. But, those academies that really create that safe space for people to flourish and become life-changing leaders. Like, it's okay to make a mistake. right? It's not about my ego and me imparting knowledge on my students, but creating an atmosphere where when they are squeezed, like an orange, when our students are squeezed, what comes out is orange juice. And when we squeeze our students and give them equal amount of love and equal amount of discipline, it enhances every part of their life, because we can work on that in the dojo. We can work on that in a safe environment where everyone is in agreement that we are here to lift each other up and lift each other higher. And that's how come I believe that it enhances every part of our life.
Mhm. You said something that, and I want to make sure that I quoted this correctly. At black belt, you get to choose to be a martial artist. Am I correct? And that's what you said?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, many times the parents will choose, hey, you're going to get your black belt, right? And then the students, I mean, I'm talking young children, because I think most 80% of in my circles is children. And then at black belt, you can really see the switch.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to prepare our students around those upper rank levels right before black belt to say, listen, there's going to be a choice that you get to make. And these are the opportunities you're going to have. And when you test for your black belt, I'm a huge goal setter. And this is, I want to celebrate you getting your black belt. It is the pinnacle. So, 1 out of 100 people get a black belt. And then you get to choose. You get to choose how you're going to take your black belt and live your life out with it. And I think having that conversation with our students is vital for two parts. For them, one, to know that this place is a safe place for them to flourish and make mistakes. Making mistakes is okay. And the number two thing is that you get to choose how you're going to live out your black belt.
Well, and for a large portion of our career together, I've taught our black belt classes. And, as they come up through the color belt ranks, we pre-frame them. When are you going to be a black belt? Which is stand like a black belt. We want you to punch like a black belt, those kinds of pre-frames. But whenever they get into my black belt class, one of the first things I tell them is, you have achieved a great pinnacle here, just like she said. You've achieved greatness right now. But you know what? You don't know how to punch like a black belt, act like a black belt, and that, because you just now got it. So my job is now to teach you not only how to do those things like a black belt, but how to conduct and live life as a black belt. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think that transition goes into becoming a really good, true martial artist.
Right. Well, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and a real quality person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I watch a student earn their black belt, and I often tell this to a parent, I said, you will see more growth in them between first degree and second degree than you've seen from the time they've started to earning their black belt. Yes. And time and time again, that's been proven true. You're like, this kid, I don't know. Like, I mean, he gets his black belt and you're like, okay, let's see what's next. And they get second degree black belt, like, whoa, where'd that kid come? Like a switch. And, going back, Jeff, talking about that change in confidence, right? You put that black belt on, man, that's a change in confidence. That's a change in the way that you attack your training. When you're below black belt, you're just hoping to get there. And then when you're black belt, you're like, okay, I'm here. Now I get to really enjoy it. One of the things that school owners struggle with, is black belt retention. That's just one of those things. And one of the things that I think in line with what you were talking about, Tina, is when our students get to black belt, I tell them, you have some choices now of what you want to do. Do you want to maybe focus on, becoming an instructor? Do you want to focus on maybe becoming a performer and be on the demo team? Do you want to be someone who likes to compete? Do you want to maybe now work on, your Krav Maga skills or your jiu-jitsu skills or your weapon skills? Or I kind of look at it like when you get to black belt, it's like going to college. You get to choose your major now. Like, you earn the right to choose your major. From white to black belt, you're doing what we tell you, right? And we're giving you all the the basics and the tools and the fundamentals. Now you get to choose, right? And I think that that's important that we see, because, hey, when I got my black belt, every single person, and we're going back a little bit, but every single person that earned their black belt the day I did, with the exception of one person, it has quit. And since then, I hate the number 1 out of 100 people earn a black belt. I hate that number. It's just, I'm not proud of that.
No,
it's just, unfortunately, it's just a fact. But anyway, I just want kind of your thoughts on that, on what I just said.
Well, I really believe that creating community in our black belt ranks, like we call it the brotherhood of black belt, right? Like we go to Top Golf together, we go bowling together. There's this rite of passage, and I couldn't agree with you more. Is that they, from first degree to second degree, is this huge growth, and I think it's because people are watching, right? Like they are completely attuned to the fact that they are now leaders, and that by wearing that black belt, the younger students put them up on this pedestal, and they get to rise to that level. So
yeah. And what are your thoughts? I remember back in the day, it was something that everybody would put on their wall. We are a black belt school, and it's black belt, black belt, black belt, black belt. But what you and I, what all three of us are talking about right now is really, it's not about getting your black belt. It's about, training for and making it a lifestyle. So how do we kind of balance that, like, intense focus on black belt, and they think that that's the pinnacle, but kind of bridging that gap? Do you follow what I'm asking?
Well, we did it by changing our name. There was just this day when, we're ATA school, and there was a day when it was Newberry's ATA Black Belt Academy, right? And it was black belt, and I just really thought about my purpose and our passion and what we've created together with our children, and our faith, and then intertwining all of that. And so I was sitting, I remember it, like, I was sitting on the back porch and going, feeling really led to change our name. And so we call ourselves Leaders for Life, because we are leaders for life. And so we changed our name and took down, we're a black belt school. And now I'm very comfortable to cast that vision that we're leaders for life wherever you go. I have a student who just called me, Bethany Knox. Shout out to Bethany. She's in Tennessee, and she is doing a stunt in Georgia.
Yeah, she's in Georgia.
I always say Tennessee. In Georgia, doing stunt work. And she calls me, and she's like, my Leaders for Life training got me this and this and this, and I'm excelling in this and this because of our Leaders for Life training. Or Anthony Wang, who's a doctor in Colorado.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, we really understand that we have very good black belt retention, but we are casting them out into real life so that they can change the real world.
Well, I think part of the thing that has helped us in that area is that we do life together. We do the journey with them. To us, it's more important the journey, if you will, than the destination. I'm more growth oriented than goal oriented. So it's all about the destination, not the destination, but the journey. Like, what's amazing about her is, in her career, she's promoted just over 900 black belts in her career. And what's interesting is, you can pull one of those names of any of those black belts that have gotten their black belt under her, and she can tell you their story. She can tell you where they came from, what they overcome to get black belt. She can tell you what that journey was along the way, because it's not just teaching the taekwondo, and it's not just the life, it's doing life with them and with them and their family, and impact, truly impacting. We say that as a cliche, we're going to impact the next generation. But when we do the journey with them and we can remember that journey, that's when that next generation gets impacted. And she's amazing at that. Amazing.
Well, and I think that is so unique in our industry because if we're talking about our industry, right, not just martial arts or martial arts schools in general, when I talk about the industry, everybody is so focused on goals and so focused on numbers and so focused on all of that status stuff, right? And I remember feeling victim to that. I was so focused on those things that I lost why I loved martial arts in the beginning, because I loved my instructor and the
Yes.
people that poured into me. And the reason I wanted to become an instructor is because I felt so moved by the fact that someone poured into me and helped me change my life and become a better version of myself. And by the way, I'm not going to kid. I did like being, a young teenage instructor and getting a little bit of that extra attention. I'm not going to lie, but
Sure.
I knew that the impact that I had on these people, it was almost, to me, it was a responsibility to pay that forward. But, somewhere in my career, I was focused on those things because the industry forces that upon us. And I love that you're talking about the relationship and the culture in your school and traveling that journey with your students, because I mean, come on now, how many students have we had, get married while they're with us, go through a divorce while they're with us, bring life into the world and have a baby or get married, go through a death and challenges like that, having their first, graduating college, having their first career. And I mean, we can't necessarily say that those things are because of us, but we had a part in it, and it feels good. And it feels even better when those students come back and say, hey, Leaders for Life really helped me get to where I am. And, I graduated college with honors, and I got my first, went on my job interview, and I was the first person to get it. Those things are so amazing. And that really comes with, knowing your students and traveling that journey with them and listen, no matter how big your school gets, I think that we can always maintain that, that relationship and that culture in our school.
Well, I think that, I struggled about 10 years ago, if I may jump on a topic, and this may be a soapbox, but, I struggled about 10 years ago when we have other Leaders for Life schools. We have Leaders for Life School in Michigan and Champaign, Illinois, and League City, Texas, and 2 in Houston, 1 in Katy. So now I'm not working with the students, the white belts or even the black belts. My job is now to help create those atmospheres in my instructors, right? This is we're going into the 4th decade of doing this. And so it does feel good when that family comes up to you and says, you know what, you saved our marriage, or you did this, or you did that. And it was really hard for me to let go of those attaboys and let someone else have that spotlight, and just work behind the scenes now, picking up the phone and coaching the Leaders for Life owners across the country. That was really difficult for me.
All right. And for me, having dealt and trained our instructors for so many years, it's one thing for me to get an accolade. It's something else for an instructor that I've trained to get an accolade. But what juices me is one of my instructors' students that is now an instructor getting accolades from the other parents and that they're teaching. That just juices me up even more. That, and I just had an opportunity to go back to my hometown and visit. And I went to a church where my very first 4-year-old kid that got his black belt under me, he's now pastoring at a church. And I got to go and listen to him preach and those kinds of things. That's what juices me up more than anything, is to see the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation. That's cool.
You're
Well,
showing age.
but that's what, that's what a leader does, right? A leader connects, with their students and helps create future leaders, right? And those leaders, like you said, even though you may not, teach all of those white belts, you're still having an impact through them, through the other instructors to them. And eventually, those white belts kind of come up the ladder, and you are able to have that relationship with them. So, it might be a distant relationship, but there's still a connection throughout. There's a common thread, all the way through from the top down. I mean, otherwise, how do you grow? I mean, you could be that one-man show for as long as you want to be, but you're only going to impact so many people and be able to help, so many people within your community. You have to build a team, but it's your leadership that allows that team to pass down to the next and pass down to the next. And hopefully, as we move on, no matter what we do, we still have that legacy to leave behind. Right.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what's awesome. Now let's talk about this. Because you brought up Cobra Kai a little bit ago.
Okay.
Okay. I'm a huge Cobra Kai fan. I mean, I've always loved Cobra Kai. And everybody's like, well, they're the bad guys. And I'm like, yeah, but look at it a little different, right? I mean, Cobra Kai are the bad guys.
Two sides to that coin.
Yes, there
right?
is.
And if you see the new show, right, of course, they're totally different side to Johnny than you've ever seen.
Right.
But so I guess what I want to talk about is like the old school versus the new school, right? What's good about the old school that might be missing in our industry now? Because in my opinion, one of the things that I see is that everybody passes, everybody gets a stripe, everybody gets a belt, participation trophies. I mean, all of that to me is just like, I just can't rally behind that, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, everything should be earned. Everything should be, worked for. That's not to say that it's going to start a little easier and get to be a little bit harder, but like there has to be that work ethic. And I think that we're losing a little bit of that just by kind of passing people through real easy. So what are your thoughts on old school versus, quote, new school?
If I was to unplug this computer and bring you into my garage right now, you would see this big pile of sawdust on the ground, and we had this Bring a Buddy, Break a Board event this Saturday with a good friend of mine, Chief Master Scott Skiles, and he did a beautiful job. But the thing was I told the kids, I'm like, listen, I'm going to bring in old school boards. Like, I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to cut them, and you're going to work on your sidekick, and we're going to break them like I did in the 1980s, and there's a difference between having 10-year-old plastic boards that, you can just sort of pop and help their self-esteem. And I'm not saying there's not a time for that, but, bringing it back to basics and giving them a taste of those regional camps where you used to go outside in the grass and, do duck walks and that kind of thing. I really am glad I had old school. I'm really glad I grew up old school, because that humans are humans, and we will either run to pain or pleasure, but confidence only comes when we do hard things until hard things become easy. Mm-hmm. And so that's my thought on old school, is to pull old school out in a safe environment. And I think let me just say this one thing. Old school is not good when it's about our ego. When it's about benefiting our students, old school's great. Mm-hmm. But if it's about creating an ego for ourselves, then I can't rally behind that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Jeff?
I think for me, I think two things. I think you asked what was lost. Delayed gratification has definitely been lost. I remember testing and waiting, for a month or so just to see if I got my orange belt, and now it's like we give out the belts at the same day of the graduation. I I think complaining, it blows my mind sometimes when a parent or a child will complain about something in class. And I think the complaining comes because when I was coming through the ranks, in the old school, if you will, I had full confidence that all of my instructors that I've been under, I had full confidence that what they were telling me to do was because they had my best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure that this current generation trusts that enough. If it's uncomfortable, they complain about it. And like I tell our instructors when I'm training them, I'm like, my job is to get you out of your comfort zone until that becomes comfortable. Then I'm going to get you out of your comfort zone until that becomes comfortable. And I'm going to do that for the rest of your life, because we grow out of our comfort zone, not in it. And so I think that's some of the things that are different now. Like, there was a lot of things my instructors have had me do in my career that were uncomfortable, but they were for my best interest. And I trusted that. And I think some of that's missing. And definitely the delayed gratification it's
right.
missing.
Right. Well, I'm always, I always kind of feel out the room, if I'm teaching a certain class, especially when we got a tournament coming up, because, when we do a tournament, we just don't do participation trophies at all. I mean, it's first, second, third, and that's it. Like, no ribbons, no star, no pat. Like, you're either going to win first, second, third, or you're going to learn that you got to come back and try harder next time. And I'm always, so as I'm making announcements and talking about the tournament coming up, and I put that in there, I've had so many like parents like clapping and like, yeah, and I'm proud of that, because I think that we've been able to build the culture to where the parents are educated enough to understand why we do it. Right. And that's probably why they chose our school, maybe over a different school or a different activity. Right. So, hey, real quick, I got to put this one up here because this is our good friend, Ms. Corey Coffrin's on here.
Oh, yes.
What's up, Corey?
That is who we've done life with for 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Alicia and their family.
Yeah, just so he knows, Alicia's my favorite Coffrin.
Yeah, there's this ongoing joke. Who's the favorite Newberry? Who's the favorite Coffrin? It really causes a disruption at family dinners at times.
I love it. I love Corey. Hey, Corey, let us know if you have any questions or any other comments that you want to throw up as you are watching the rest of this. But so I'm glad we got to talk about that a little bit. Now, I want to get back on track of just how did you guys even start your school? How did the school start? Very first school. Tell me the story.
Well, my original instructor had moved. My dad stepped into his place, and he started two schools, one in Mattoon, Illinois, and one in Charleston, Illinois, and they were like twin cities. Then we had some family stuff, and he had a really bad back injury. And so at 18 years old, I stepped into his shoes. And thank goodness I was 18 years old, because I didn't realize that what I was doing, probably most people would say, couldn't be done. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But I was so young and so arrogant that I thought, okay, I can do this. And I worked 3 jobs, and he helped me. We were dating at the time. We weren't even married at the time. And he would do the book.
That's a side story. Dating your father. Well, at the time, the instructor's daughter. Oh man, that makes for some rough sparring matches. That's
probably a whole nother podcast.
Well, I might get in trouble for saying this, but I got that situation right now. My head instructor and my daughter are dating. So,
need advice? I can give you some.
I'm just riding the wave. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, I worked 3 jobs and supported the academies until the academies could support me, and then us. And then we got married, and then had children. And I did a bunch of tiny little clubs all over Illinois. Because if you go down south in Illinois, you're like, there's a town and cornfields, and then a little town and then cornfields. Like, you're in these tiny little islands. And so then the founder of the ATA, Eternal Grandmaster Lee, he's like, listen, I feel like you're really talented. You need to go to a bigger city. So I'm like in my young 20 something year old mind. I'm like, oh, a bigger city. Okay. So I went to Champaign, Illinois, which was about, with the university there, a little over 200,000. And I thought I was in a big city. Now I know what he was talking about. But at the time, we moved, we got married and had children. And man, does your teaching change when you have children? I mean, and so we decided to stay there in Champaign, Illinois, until our last one was completely raised. It's a beautiful place to raise children. And then it's going on 3 years ago, we sold that school to the Guerreros. Shout out to the Guerreros.
Yeah.
And then they're doing wonderful with it. And we moved here.
Oh, they're doing so much more than we ever could have.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's so good. And they have 2 little girls just like us. So that's special. And then we moved to Houston, and now we have 2 schools in Houston. And he's semi-retired, and I'm like, okay, let's go. I waited all my life to do this. So let's do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, you said that, how much your teaching changes when you have children. Going back to, the old school, right? I was brought up the old school way, and, I didn't have kids. I was a young teenager. I was 17 when I earned my black belt. I was 19 when I opened my school. And the things that I did, I don't know how I kept students.
No.
I don't know why they stayed, but they did. And then my kids were born, and I'm like, oh, this ain't gonna work. This is
yeah.
I mean, I changed so much, like the belt system, using a stripe system, Little Dragons program, Little Ninjas, and now we call it Big Dragons. All these different programs for 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Age specific curriculum, which back then we just didn't do. It was like everybody learned the same thing. And the black belt process, totally different. What I learned through the other activities and the other sports, the good experiences, is that's what it was. I wanted them to have an experience, not just come to karate class a couple times a week and learn how to kick and punch and block, but like everything that goes along with it, all the life skills, all the character education, giving that experience, I think what was super important. So yeah, having kids definitely changed our school, and it's still evolving. It's still changing, and I'm kind of, when you talk about the journey, I'm still enjoying the martial arts journey so much because of all of these changes, along the way. But can we talk a little bit more about, outside of the martial arts? Jeff, you're a retired police officer. So tell us about your experience as a police officer.
It was an interesting experience. I was a police officer in a predominantly white community. Our department didn't have any ethnic officers. My partner was the only female in our department. And we worked certain parts of town, and that it was one of the most noble, one of the greatest experiences of my life, one of the greatest careers anybody could ever have. I'm glad that I'm not in it now, in the direction that some things have went in the country, but it's a tremendously admirable profession. I was one of those 21-year-old kids that went to the academy. They gave me a gun, and thank God I had a great sergeant that taught me how, alongside with my mother and father, but I had a sergeant that literally taught me how to be a mature man. And he came alongside and trained me. He took a young, naive kid that thought everything was, sunshine and roses. And he helped educate me in a safe way that's not necessarily the way it is, but there is still a lot of good. The thing that I love the most about that career for me is that as a person of faith, I had a tremendous amount of opportunity to share my faith with people, because every time a police officer shows up, someone is at their worst. And so there was a lot of opportunity to share my faith. And so that was, and I learned how to do that a lot because of my partner, because I watched my partner share her faith consistently. And so it was a great, experience. There's memories that both good and bad, that things I've seen that I think have helped form me into who I am today. But great career.
Yeah, good for you.
At 5'3", there was on more than one occasion an opportunity to use physical defensive tactic skills.
Yeah, I bet. Well, first of all, thank you for your service as a law enforcement officer. I have so much respect for anybody, in law enforcement, fire department, military, because you literally, you put yourself in harm's way to protect and serve your community. I mean, there's often times where you've got to step in and you've got to be in a situation that you probably don't want to be in, but for the betterment of the community and the safety of others, you do. I think it's just a very selfless profession. And again, living here in California, and you talk about the political climate of this country, every police officer that I talked to recently in California is like, I would never recommend anybody become a police officer in California. And that makes me sick. It makes me disgusted. It makes me ashamed that we've come to that place in society where even these officers are saying, don't do it. It's going to be a bad position for you. Or the lack of respect that people have for, turn on the news, look at Facebook, and you can see all you need to see. And it's just so sad. I mean, it's really upsetting.
When people ask me, knowing that I had been in law enforcement, a lot of people ask, they're like, what's the secret, if you will, to being a good police officer? And I tell them there's two things. Number one, if you're going into law enforcement as a career, don't do it. If you're going into law enforcement as a calling, then do it no matter what. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that when you go into law enforcement, law enforcement's slogan, if you will, is to protect and serve. If you want to be good at law enforcement, you have to invert those. You got to serve first and protect. And the more you serve, the less you're going to have to, if you will, physically protect. Or you serve your community. So if they can do those two things, I think law enforcement is definitely the career for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that, just that message by itself, when we're talking about serving in any capacity, whether it's as a law enforcement officer, whether it is as a martial arts instructor, a coach, a teacher, or just anybody within your community. When you get out and serve your community, things in your life really start to change. And again, I think we can probably talk about that for quite a bit, but I do want to talk about Tina's service in another direction, in that you wrote a book. And talk to me about what prompted you to write this book.
Well, I feel like I may have had, I know even back when you and I met, through, we were both Maya consultants for a while. And, even back then, I probably had this really bad case of, what is that called? Where you're not quite believing in yourself, I can't remember the name of it, but I wrote this book because I finally felt like I came into raising my children, and all three of them are doing quite well. And I have hundreds and hundreds of other, students that are excelling. And at the time I wrote the book, through 3 decades, I had seen some really great parenting that I was able to pull from. And, every day I was seeing great parenting, or every day I was seeing some really poor parenting. Like, I felt bad for those kids. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to take the common denominator of what I had learned from all of these great parents and from my parents and his parents and through our leadership training that we always took, and put them all together in a book so that I could give it away to my students, my students' families.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the motivation behind the book. I mean, and for our grandkids, and for, you know, for my legacy, my personal legacy, that my grandkids would be able to have a glimpse into their parents' upbringing. And but I tell my personal kids and all the people that I mentor that let my decades be your days. And so that's why I wrote the book, so that families could take a shortcut. You know, oh, am I not communicating? Why is my teenager rebelling? Well, let's look at the 5 love languages. Let's look at this. Let's look at that. And I wrote it all in the book. So for my decades to be their days, and for families not to have so much pain.
Mm-hmm. I think the term that you were looking for before is imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
And
yeah.
We face that a lot, you know. I definitely remember feeling that as a consultant, as an instructor early on, as a father even, you know, you kind of feel like you're faking it at some point until you really get it. And then when you get it, you're like, you know, and you can pass it on to others.
Right. Like I'm 90% there, but how about if that 10% is wrong? And that 10% keeps us in fear from really passing on some really great wisdom. And, but I probably have that still now, but I wrote the book, and that has launched into a lot of other really great projects.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, before we get ready to wrap up, I want to give anybody that's watching live an opportunity to ask a question. If you have any questions that you want to ask or any comments to drop before you go, please do that. But the last thing I want to, talking about your book, and now you've created a leadership curriculum that you'll be launching later this year. So tell us about that curriculum that you're launching.
Yeah, I wrote, again, taking everything that 4 decades has given us is, while my kids were in gymnastics, in sports events, and they were teenagers, I would want their coaches to reinforce some of the things that I was teaching them at home. Mm-hmm. And it always sort of never really happened. And so that's how Leaders for Life was birthed. I wrote a 1-year leadership and life skill curriculum, working on studying. I studied what the best schools in the United States were doing, what the best schools all over the world were doing, taking communication, collaboration, critical thinking, confidence, compassion, and really writing leadership curriculum that is short and simple and sweet, and giving that to our parents so that we could partner. And so our students are hearing the same thing from their parents. They're hearing the same thing from us and whoever else uses the curriculum. And so they're submerged in this vocabulary of leadership and life skills, and in an atmosphere that is honoring. And so I'm launching that I'm actually giving away and I don't want to get political, but the last election made me decide that my compassion series, I'm giving that away for free when we launch here in November. And it's an 8-week piece, an 8-week curriculum that we're going to give away for free. So stay tuned for that and how you can get it. I'm still setting up the website.
All right. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear more about it and see it when it does launch. But listen, I want to thank you guys for being awesome guests on the show and sharing your story and talking a little bit about, your faith and how martial arts came together and how you guys came together and created Leaders for Life, your book and your upcoming leadership curriculum. So thank you so much. Any last thoughts that you want to close with today?
I would really like to encourage any instructor who's discouraged that it is worth it. It is a calling, and it is worth it. And we're all here for you. So,
well, thank you. Well, thanks again, Jeff. Thank you for being on here with us, and really enjoyed talking with you guys and catching up. Hopefully it won't be too long before the next time. And just want to remind everybody to go to YouTube and subscribe to Master Motivation Podcast and check out some of the awesome guests that we've had in the past. Make sure to share this video if you loved it today, and check out the ones that are coming up in the future. But for now, go out and make it your best day ever. Have a good week. Be productive. Be just believe in yourself, and believe that you can make an impact with just very small, a small gesture, a small, just sometimes that smile. Like, we forget how powerful a smile can be, right? So it doesn't have to be a big, grand thing. You don't have to post it all over social media either. You can just do it and make a difference. So guys, go out and make a difference. Have a great day. Newberries, thank you so much.
thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.